All right, welcome to the Max Effort Kitchen podcast. We are your host. My name is Matt. This is Cornell. We got a fun. Okay, now here we go again. I'm setting precedents. We got a fun show for you today. A lot of pressure, but yeah, dude, it's transitioning. It's still. We just talked about it. Still hot down there. Still kind of hot up here, but I don't know, man. What do you think? This is kind of one of my favorite times of year as we get into like the late September, like endless summer kind of weather, and then it gets into October. You've heard me talk about it. It is my absolute like best Super Bowl of cooking. This is when I love to cook, right?
Okay. I like fall, but
Yeah.
it's not fall yet. At least
No.
not down here. Here is like the butthole time of summer, where like kids are back in school.
Yeah.
You're ready for it to start cooling down. We get 1 or 2 days where it's like 72, 73 when it was like all summer. I think we hit 100 degrees one time the whole summer.
Wow, really?
And now we can't get away from it. The last week, like
Sorry, well.
since like Tuesday, it's been like 108 every day.
Yeah,
And it's right when the kids go back to school, and I feel bad because my wife's the teacher and they have air conditioner, but it's not powerful enough. Like, I mean, the school building is like 80 years old. Like, school's been around for like 80 years.
Yeah.
And it's enough to like keep the room cool, but then when you've got all the kids out there playing and then they come inside and they are 105 degrees, like that room does not stay cool. So.
No, it's funny that you bring that up because the major school district, Portland School District, on Friday, it was 93, 94 degrees, and they shut down early.
Wow.
And so I had a couple like, people at work that were like, yeah, I got to get my kids. And I'm like, why? What happened? And then, PPS is shutting down. They're telling everybody to come get their kids at 11:30. And I'm like, wow, what? I just don't understand. And I mean, somebody was like, oh, they just don't have, most of the schools in PPS don't have great air conditioners if they have them at all. And I kind of get that, but like, man, come on. Like, Portland's so weird like that. If it snows an inch, we're shutting down. If it gets above 90 degrees, apparently we're shutting down. And it's just every year something. It's crazy to me.
Yeah, so they didn't shut the school down, but they did do, and it was, my wife said it was funny, they still call it rainy day schedule.
Oh, okay.
Where they don't want, like, kids have lunch inside the classroom, the kids have recess inside the classroom, like everything is still inside the classroom, but there's still the first part of the day is it's more like the 11 o'clock on, everything stays inside the class.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's probably a really good idea. I did some cooking this weekend. I had a day yesterday where Jack went with Alana and they took like some of his buddies to a little water park. And so Maddie and I hung out all day and it was really cool. And I was like, hey, what do you want to do? And she goes, I want to make chocolate chip cookies. And I was like, all right, cool. Let's do this. And now I am and I don't know if I've ever talked about this, but I'm very specific and very intentional about the way I make my chocolate chip cookies. I have a recipe that's up here that I know exactly how to make it. And there's specific things. Now, she was like, I want to make this one. And it was a brown butter chocolate chip cookie. And so I'm thinking, okay, brown butter, it can't make that big of a difference. Mind blown. And I'll send you a picture of them. They were so good. Are you familiar with what brown butter is?
That's where you like cook the butter till it turns brown, I believe.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Logical, right? Yeah. So what it does is what's happening is it's caramelizing the milk fats in there. And so what that's doing is creating little microbes of basically caramel. And so when the butter starts turning brown, it's basically turning into this really, really light caramel. So you take that, you put it in your bowl, you boil it, and then you drop the heat and let it simmer for like 15 minutes. It starts turning brown. You start to smell the caramel, or like almost like popcorny caramel flavor. You start smelling that, you put it in your bowl, throw in your sugar, eggs, whip that up. And then, all the flour, the baking soda, and salt. I think that was it. The batter was really crazy. It was like almost like Play-Doh. So it was kind of throwing me off there. One thing I always do with my chocolate chip cookies is I'll make them, and then I'll take the scooper, ball them up, and I'll put them on the tray, and then throw it in the fridge for at least 2 hours and let them get nice and cold. And then you cook them right out of the refrigerator.
Oh, nice.
And what that does is that allows them to stay tall, and not melt flat. And so, like, these cookies were so good. They were like these caramely, really almost like a salted caramel chocolate chip cookie. It was interesting. Give it a shot. If you need the recipe, I'll send it to you. But
definitely send it. I'll try it.
Yeah. And the recipe I had makes I think I made like 18 cookies. So it's fairly easy. Doesn't take a ton of ingredients, but you should definitely give it a shot. I was thinking about you when we were doing it, because I was like, Maddie, we should get some ice cream and make some ice cream sandwiches with this thing, because holy crap. But that was really cool. And then I listened to a polo that you were talking about, and I feel like you've talked about this before, and I want you to talk about it again. But the French toast you made with the muffin.
Okay.
So that's phenomenal.
Yeah. So many people always talk about French toast and they're like, oh, it's so bad for you. I'm like,
right.
No, it's not. It's literally egg, milk, and then whatever else you want to put in it. If you want to put anything else, like I always put vanilla. Some people put cinnamon.
It
doesn't really matter. It's just something to kind of make it taste a little bit different.
Yeah.
So my wife and I went to Costco last weekend, and I yelled at my son jokingly this morning because he was eating the last muffin. And I was like, that was my breakfast. He's like, it was still in the package. I'm like, I was going to make French toast with it. So I basically take the muffin and I cut it the way that no non-psychopath would ever cut it this direction. But I'm cutting it basically into like a hamburger patty.
Yeah.
Like, the sideways, not up and down. Like everyone knows, like you make quarters, but I'm like, there's the top, there's the middle, and there's the bottom.
Nice.
And then I put the eggs, I put the whole batter stuff together, let it sit. I let it sit a little bit longer than I probably needed to, but it's a little harder and denser than normal bread. Yeah. And then I just threw it on the griddle, and I just put some butter down, and then there's like a nice thick pool of butter, and then it just goes right into that. Cooked a little longer than normal slow and low kind of thing.
Okay. And
then I just picked it up, stacked it all the way back up like a muffin, covered in powdered sugar, and went from there. And it was what was the almond poppy seed? Oh
man, see that's an absolute genius way of getting different flavors in there, right? Like I don't know about you, but I'm always playing around with how to get different flavors into the batter.
Mm-hmm.
Use different bread.
Yeah, and
it's like genius.
I'll make French toast out of dang near anything I can.
Love it.
I mean, this isn't that uncommon, but it was a weird thing the first time I did it. Now I've seen it like probably 20 plus years ago. Okay. We had some old cinnamon rolls, so I just sliced those up and made it out of that. And then now it's like a pretty staple thing you can find at a lot of like breakfast places, like a cinnamon roll French toast.
Yep.
I also did it the other day. Another Costco buy. We bought a big loaf of lemon blueberry bread, or like a pound cake. Yes. And that is just amazing. And if you do it right and you let it soak in, like you can get an egg per piece of bread.
Nice.
Soak in. So then you're getting your protein still, and like you don't feel, not that I feel that bad about eating any of this stuff, but I'm like, I'm getting some of the stuff that I should be eating, not just the carbs.
Right. No, and it's pretty innovative. I really like it. Now, when you say, I mean, are you particular with any muffin, or like, to me, my head goes to the Costco muffin. Like
we pretty much only get Costco muffins. I mean,
that makes sense.
They're big. So it's gonna like one of those. I think I split one once, but like I'll eat one muffin, and I would much rather eat it in French toast form. And and you're full after. Like you can have I'll put normally 2 eggs for the muffin because the top is really small.
Okay.
2 eggs. I'll just let it soak until it's solid, and then it does take like 10 minutes to cook. Because you want to get it. First off, you want it to like fully soak in, and then you want it to like fully cook. So
yeah, like you were saying, dense bread. You want to make sure that it's not super eggy in the middle, and it cooks through. That's genius, man. I used to have a friend that sweared on it, and I've never really been able to get it right, which is a baked French toast.
okay,
And that's basically where you do the same stuff, make your egg batter, you put it in like almost like a brownie dish, and you put your bread in there, cut it like get it really thick bread, put it in there, and let it soak overnight.
Yep.
And then you pull it out and just throw it straight in the oven, because eventually that bread is going to soak up all that batter, and then he made it really well. I never could do it well enough to where I didn't feel like it was too like eggy.
Okay. My mother-in-law makes it with, I think, Grand Marnier.
Oh.
And that is really good. But the biggest problem with it, and this is probably why I've never wanted to do it, if you want more, you can't. Like, you can't just go and make up another one really quick.
That's a good point.
So if I want to have another muffin, I can just go make another muffin.
Yeah. I like that. That's a really good point. And like, yeah, it's like the whole like casserole movement, like make everything a casserole. I would rather be able to have, like you said, get more in there.
Yeah.
Because if you're my family, like I make pancakes every Saturday, and they just gobble them up, and I'm like, well, where are my pancakes?
Well, you can make French toast out of your pancakes too.
Yeah, I've never done that. I've seen it happening. Have you done it before?
I have. It's actually better. So if you make a bunch of pancakes and have some leftover, it's better to use those like the next day.
Okay.
Because they're never going to taste as good if you just like heat up the pancakes.
Yeah.
But then if you actually like cook the pancakes in egg, then it's going to be better.
That makes sense. That makes total sense. I mean, I've done the pancake trick where you like, you put your bacon down, get it nice and, I bake the bacon and then put the pancake over that. And I think we've talked about this before. I swear we have. So, cool, man. Well, I tried like a Tuscany chicken dish tonight, and it didn't really work out the way I liked it to, but so I'll probably refrain from that one, but it was a fun weekend, I guess, probably really low key, kind of stayed a little bit homebody, which was nice. Cleaned the gutters.
What are you, midlife?
Yeah, I know.
Middle age.
I was talking to somebody about it yesterday, and they're like, "Bro, you're acting like you're like 80 right now." I'm like, yeah, shut up. Oh man. What about you? What's going on with the gym? Wasn't there a competition there? Oh no, that was in SoCal, right?
No, there was one at the Barbell Brigade.
Barbell Brigade, that's right.
So Stephanie did it. She got her ticket to AO finals. I'm gonna make fun of her tomorrow. She snatched 89 and she only needed 96, I think. So maybe 95. So 89, let's just say 96 so it sounds bigger, but I think it was 95.
Okay.
6 kilo spread. Come on. But I did tell her the other day, I'm like, you nervous? And she's like, for what? I'm like, it's the most important meet of your life. She's like, no, it's not. I'm like, this one dictates if you make it to finals or not. And you really want to go to finals. So it's going to at least dictate, or this is the most important meet of this year. And she's like, crap.
Oh, I love it when you're going into something and totally like cool, like this is fun. And then somebody looks at you and goes, hey, you nervous? Well, shit, I am now. Yeah, no, that's cool.
She's been on fire with the snatches.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
I wasn't surprised that she made, I think she went 5 for 6.
She got best lifter too, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
And it doesn't surprise me that she snatched what she did. And then if I was in her situation, I would have only clean jerked what I had to.
Yeah, makes sense. You're just qualifying. Like there's no need to go any farther. I got a question for you because I've never really understood best lifter. Like, how do you win that? Is it just up to the judges?
No, it's a Sinclair.
Oh, it's Sinclair, really?
So there's one men and one woman
Okay.
best lifter award. There's normally like, depending on the meet, how big it is.
Yeah.
Like a SoCal meet will have a goodie bag, some stuff you can win. You might win. I mean, there's been some real nice awards. I won a Onyx belt once. I won I forgot what else I've won, whatever they're giving away. But then the best lifter award, one year I got $150 towards Onyx and $150 towards
oh man,
Virus.
Nice.
And it's normally like the big award.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they only have to give out 2, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah. And I just never really understood that, if it was like a judge's thing or if it was like, but the Sinclair, that makes it nice and clean. I like that. That's pretty cool.
Honestly, it's kind of how most of these meets just should be in general.
Yeah.
I think that some of the meets that don't have enough realistic people in them, it should just be a Sinclair base, because then it's just top 3.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Then it would be like, this is what you actually like. Out of everybody here, this is who actually won.
Right.
If there's like 2 people per weight class, and then it's like everyone's a winner, I don't agree with that.
I'm with you on that, dude, because I think what was it, Masters Nationals, like it just felt like a lot of medals were being given out.
Yeah.
Like it was interesting. And it is what it is. I forgot to tell you, I received in the mail my weightlifting house shorts.
Oh, nice.
And I absolutely love them. I went to go order some more and they were sold out.
Oh yeah.
So they are awesome. Awesome. A little small, like you said they would be.
Okay.
but they're awesome. I love them.
That's the same material the singlet is made out of.
And they have like the strip on them and everything, like underneath, perfect length. Like I was like, okay, this is spot on. When do you drop in your next ones? Because I'm gonna buy more. I'm totally stoked on them. I didn't get the long pants, but I have a ton of long. I don't really wear the long ones that often, to be honest with you. So
yeah, I either like the shorts or the long ones. I don't like the 3/4.
Yeah, I have a couple 3/4s that I've bought years ago for whatever reason. It was before I was doing weightlifting. I'll wear those from time to time, but the thing I don't like about those is when I wrap my knees, it moves all over the place because the tight is moving, and it's Under Armour, and it's like kind of a cheap material.
Okay.
Yeah, just not good ones. I'm gonna probably, I think I've made a switch where I'm gonna stick to just shorts, the short ones.
I like the shorts because it feels like a singlet without having to have all the extra singlet material if you don't want to pull it up. Yeah. I did consider ordering their singlet, but I don't think they have my size right now. And just to actually train in it, but not necessarily pull it up the whole time.
I like that. Yeah.
I've been, so like when I'm getting ready for competition, I like the last week or 2, I'll wear a singlet, and then I don't pull it up till it's like my top sets, kind of like you would in competition.
Totally. I'm with you on that. I like to, you break it in, I'll break out the comm collars, the singlet. I at one time, and I don't do this anymore, but at one time I would have a specific pair of shoes that I compete in, but I stopped that. I just said, you know what? It's not that big of a deal. I'm just going to wear the shoes I train in. Seems legit. But you were talking the other day, and you had mentioned the podcast that you sent us, and it was a really good topic, and I thought we should probably discuss it. And that's the idea of plateauing in your training and why it's happening. Something I really enjoyed about that podcast is they broke down every angle. And they got probably a little bit too deep for me to hold complete interest. Like when it starts getting too scientific, I start like kind of pulling out, because I'm like, I don't know how to adjust those things. But when they're more literal, like, hydration and all the stuff you're doing outside, but they really said, like the thing that you said you were like, which was, are you training too much or are you training not enough?
Yeah, that was like basically the biggest piece of the pie is if you're having a plateau is you have to ask your question, is it because you're not training enough or are you training too hard?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you're not training enough, that's a pretty easy fix.
Yeah, it is.
Add some more in, but also look at what's going on in life. Why are you not training as much? Have you lost interest? Is life busy? Did work take over? Is it just that time of the season where you can't, like, a plateau isn't necessarily a bad thing. There was another one that we listened to a while ago where he was explaining that a plateau isn't necessarily a bad thing because you're not getting worse.
Yeah.
You're maintaining. And then all you have to do is look forward and you say, okay, now what do I need to do to up this? But what they were talking about was like people who, like, I know a lot of people who are just stuck at the same numbers for years and years and years, and they're not at their capability of what their body's capable of. It's not like they're maxing it out.
Right.
I'd like to think for myself, I've seen probably within a kilo or two of the top numbers I'll ever hit in my life.
Okay.
I'm not mad that I'm not as good as I used to be.
Right.
I know that there's still time and that if I wanted to get back up there, I still could, but I'm trying to play the smart game. And based on last week's conversation about ramping up a little bit too soon, I think I did ramp up a little bit too soon. This week has gone to hell. But I was starting to think a little bit too far ahead. And I'm like, I'm in my brain, I'm like 4 weeks ahead from right now because I'm competing in 4 weeks. I'm like, I should really be hitting this. And I could not snatch anything the past couple of days. So,
yeah, I got to agree with you there with the part where you were saying like it's not necessarily a bad thing to plateau. It just means that you need to make an adjustment somewhere. And it's just requires being very honest with yourself on your training. I think for a garage lifter, it's a catch-22 on being honest with yourself. You can overthink it, like this guy. You can overthink it all the time, and you can sit there and be like, "Yeah, I'm being honest and I'm being hyper aware," or you could just not care and get out there and lift. Either way, you're going to hit a plateau. And the one thing that I really, whenever I do hit the plateau, I just make minor changes, like 1% changes. I make a change and like, say like this plateau that I've hit recently, it was like, okay, kind of sitting at the same numbers. Let's work in a bodybuilding day twice a week, or let's change up my schedule. So I have Wednesdays off instead of Thursdays off. And for me, and I'm not saying this works for everybody, but those minor changes generally take me out of that plateau because I train hard and I'm pretty dedicated and I'm pretty consistent. And so it's like there are times that I have trained too hard. But I can generally, for myself, and, if you're listening to this, like, you should always, in my opinion, you should always be evaluating yourself on how you're doing. There are times that you should not give a shit and just get out there and lift, right? But if you're competing, if you're ramping up to stuff, like having that awareness, like what you just said, giving, maybe you ramped up a little too early, but you recognize that, made the adjustment, and now you're gonna, next couple of weeks is going to be a little different than you probably anticipated, right? I mean, to me, making those 1% changes is really the way to get off that plateau. But you got to be willing to make the change.
Yeah, I like that. Also, one of the things that I do is I don't wear a lot of different shoes, but I kind of have like 3 pairs that I kind of wear.
Yeah.
So what I did do, I think last week, is I switched into, like you said, you had competition shoes, but those are shoes you wore just for the competition.
Right.
I have shoes that I like to wear where it's like, now we're getting serious. Now this is like, I'm transitioning into peaking phase. And what I think I did is I just kind of thought about that a little bit too much and I put them on too early. And then I was starting to go heavier more often than I probably should.
Yeah.
Tweaked my shoulder pretty good the other,
Shoot.
with I missed the snatch in front. The straps didn't come off, immediately went again, lost it behind. And I immediately felt some pain in the shoulder, but I just kind of pushed through, ended up making the snatch like 3 lifts later and then clean and jerked. But then today it's like, oh, I feel it. So I'm hoping I can clean and jerk, and then I'm going to focus a little bit on that for the next week and just some light snatches. And I'm not concerned. Nothing is like I can't move my arm and nothing popped or,
that's good. I think those minor bumps and bruises, you're doing exactly what a seasoned weightlifter would do, which is self-regulation. You're regulating your training based off of what's happening with you. And it's one of those things that I think I learned later on. And I would imagine early on, people don't learn that. But I always, me, dude, there's something always happens about 3 weeks out for me.
Yeah.
3 weeks out. And I'm like, I don't know what it is. If I'm getting too excited and I just start like forgetting everything, but that plateau can really be a messed up mental game. But if you just remember to make minor changes, I have a whiteboard, and a lot of times when I'm training, because I train by myself probably 90% of the time, I'll just write like the things I'm thinking about up there. And then I come back and I'm like, what the hell was I thinking? Or I'm like, oh, that's useful. But it's just good to be aware of your training as a lifter and not put the pressure on other people to tell you when to make the change or to tell you what to do. And I think that does take some maturity in the sport.
Yeah, I think that a very easy lifter to have a plateau is a either open-ended set or a max effort style programming.
Yes.
I did that for a couple of years, and I've talked about this before. 9 months, every single weekend, I totaled 300. I could not total like 305. Wow. I might total 301. I might total 299.
Yeah.
I could not total 305. And it was because the program that I was on was just max. Yeah. And it only allowed my base that was underneath me to get to a certain, I could only lift a certain amount of weight. And if I had, let's say, a bad snatch day and I snatched 135, it was like I had just enough energy left to crack out like a 165, but I never had, if I snatched 40, I did not have enough for a 65. And it wasn't till I switched programs and started doing the AI where it was holding me in that like 110 kilo range for the first 2 weeks. And then the next 2 weeks, it was like, we're going to go 115. And then then after that, it was like, we're going to start playing with 25 to 30. And then the first, I think I had 2 max out days at the end of the program. The first one I totaled 305 without touching anything realistically over a 130 snatch and a 150 clean and jerk. And I went 145, 160. Wow. And then the next week I went 143, 162. And I missed the attempts after both of those, like to try to go for more.
So that's a direct correlation of how you're training. Yeah. Yep. And it's crazy how much weight is put on these programs because if you were to look at a coach and be like, hey, coach, I'm just kind of stuck here for the past year. I've been doing this. I've been hitting like the same numbers. I need to move around. What's going on? And they look at you and say, hey, just follow the program. That's probably a red flag.
Yeah.
I would imagine, my voice gets all high. I would imagine that a coach would look at you and say, okay, cool. Well, let's look at what you're doing. Let's make some minor adjustment. And it sounds like when you moved over to the AI, it dropped you and then gradually worked you up instead of dropped you and then worked you up and had you up here.
Yeah.
You know, that it's, I guess if you think of like the graphs on the stock market, how they go up and then up and down, up and down. That's what I think in my brain. That's kind of the way I like to see a program go. It's like up, you peak a little bit. Okay, we're going to drop you down to a deload. Then we're going to move you up above that peak a little bit more, and then drop you down to a little deload. And that's what AI is doing to me right now, which is something I've never experienced. And I'm seeing myself get a lot stronger. Maybe not, maybe my technique is not getting there, but like my strength is getting there. And I really enjoy it. And so AI, whatever you guys are doing out there, that it works for this guy. Sounds like it's worked for you too. But you also had good, some good training and numbers and all that stuff with the strength tank too. So was that kind of similar?
Yeah. So the hard part with and this isn't like a rip on the strength tank at all. The hard part with doing a program that your gym provides is they have goal competitions for you to do.
Yeah.
And if your goals don't align with those numbers, you're stuck doing a program that you might not be super stoked on.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what was going on for some people at the gym, where we were like 16 weeks out from something and they didn't compete at the last one. And I think someone went on vacation and was gone for 2 weeks. So they were like right before the peak and then came back right during the like hypertrophy phase of the next thing. And they're like, I feel like I've been doing the same thing over and over and over. And then the competition that they were expecting people to do and that they had talked about, only like 5 people out of like the 25 signed up for it.
Yeah.
So then Stephanie she's smart enough to pivot on that. And she's like, well, let's go heavy. Let's give them a little bit of testing time right now, because they're not doing this meet coming up.
Right.
And all of a sudden everyone's just freaking excited and they're showing up with extra like fire in their eyes and stuff. And then they're just going to pivot to something else. But I get that. It's like normally week 4 of the very minor changes to the same program is like where I'm just going like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this again. And then like, I'll talk to the coach about it and she'll be like, well, it's different. I'm like, it's not really different. Yeah, there's 4 sets instead of 3. I'm like, that's not different.
Not different. That's good.
So yeah, it's definitely a hard thing where I think we've talked about this before. Like if you're doing AI, I think that the perfect cycle is 6 to 8 weeks.
Yep.
Because 12 weeks is if you haven't done anything for a long time or you're injured, because that first 4 weeks is just going to be like treading water.
Yeah.
If you did a 16 or even like, let's say a 30-week program,
holy crap,
you're gonna just tread water until about 6 weeks out.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be freaking miserable.
Yeah. You know, that treading water stage, I think it's only necessary the first, if you're ramping up for a competition or if you're training for a competition. The first 2 weeks is all that treading water should be, and then let's get it going.
Yeah.
I adjusted. Well, my next one is going to be an 8-week cycle, or no, I'm sorry, I made it a 6-week cycle, 6 weeks. And so I'm really interested to see. I have 2 more weeks left in this cycle that I'm in right now, and so I'll finish it out. But I think I agree with you on that. Like. When you said 30 weeks, I don't know if I've ever comprehended that.
That was an extreme something where I was more saying that it's going to stay the same until 6 weeks out.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you're still doing a 6-week program.
Yeah, you're just doing 24 weeks and nothing before that.
Right. Too much. That's too much. Yeah, no, I think you're onto something with that. I think that the smaller 6 to 8 week programs leading up to a competition is pretty ideal. And it really allows you to get everything you need. And then, as you start to, I guess, peak, you're right there at the competition. And it's like 6 to 8 weeks is not a long enough time to get bored. It's, I'm going to say if you're doing everything the way you should be, and you're taking time to be, aware of everything, like you shouldn't get hurt in that amount of time. It's really, it's kind of the perfect one.
Yeah. And I don't even think it's necessarily perfect just for like a competition. I know that probably a lot of the people who listen to this are on teams and they're not in charge of their programming.
Yeah, right. I know.
But I'm just going to talk to the people who are on AI.
Yeah.
Because that's going to give you control of what you're doing.
That's the whole point of AI, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. So what I would do is, let's say I'm looking at, let me think. Let's just say, for instance, Masters Nationals 2025. I think it's probably March. So it's September now. So it's 6 months away. So if you did, I wouldn't just do whatever until then. I would have, let's say, like, I'm just gonna guess because I'm tired and my math isn't right. Let's say if there's 5-6 week blocks before Masters Nationals.
Yeah,
I would continue just doing 6 week cycles. And then I would peak in 6 weeks, then I'd pull back, and then I'd peak again in 6 more weeks, and then pull back. And I think that you're going to get so much better by peaking, and then you're going to roll it back and then start to build up again instead of just trying to have this giant build up.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there.
I've also heard a lot of people say that, like, training PRs don't matter. It just matters what's on the platform. And you should never take an attempt if you're not going to the PR or to a competition. And I'm like, I totally disagree with that. I think you should be pushing your lifts in the gym as hard as you can. Mm-hmm. And you should get those PRs as high as you can, so that when you go to competition and you're like, oh, I'm only opening at like 85% of my best, but I'm used to going 85, 93, 99 or 100%. Like, build some real big confidence with that.
Exactly. And that's what I was just going to say. At the very least, you are building confidence. You're like, I've touched this weight before. I've touched my opener. Shoot, I might even touch my second attempt, but I couldn't agree with you more on that, because you gotta push the heavy lifts, and that was one thing I remember when we were at Masters, and you're like, all right, well, you're gonna open at 130. When's the last time you hit it? I'm like, I haven't. It was like 2.5 months, and I was like, but I'm okay. I think I got it, and I struggled with it. Honestly, like I pressed out the first one, made the second one, and pressed out the third, and so it goes to show you that, like, do I have the strength to do it? Sure. Muscle memory, sure, but was the confidence necessarily there? No. But I was definitely going to fake it until I made it, sometimes you got to do that. So I think hitting those bigger lifts, like in this last block, I hit 35 probably 6 times. I hit 40 4 times.
Okay.
To me, that feels good, because that hasn't happened in over a year. And so that's just building my confidence. Like, and mind you, I don't know if every weightlifter's like this, but I sure am. When my confidence starts to get up, I start spouting out stupid numbers. I'm hitting 150 like a month, and then I hurt myself. So that's my road. I don't know if anybody else deals with that, but yeah, dude, I think the confidence is a very big part of walking into a competition and performing the way you should and the way you trained.
I think one of the other parts that oftentimes people don't think about is they're constantly wanting to push, like, they want to push the competition numbers. And what I would tell someone is, let's say your best total is 200 kilos.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. You're continually hitting 220 in training.
Yeah.
Well, let's not open. Let's not plan to try to hit 221 in competition. The goal is going to be to lock in your openers. And then we're going to second attempts. We want to total over 200, not like a lot over, like 202, 205, something like that. And then you make that second attempt. I know that you can't judge where you're going to kind of be, but let's say you, with your opener clean and jerk, if you were going to be over 200 with your second attempt snatch, then you're in a good place.
Yeah.
Then go wild on your third one. And then if you hit, let's say you hit that, still lock in that PR, just a little bit of a PR on your total, and then go have fun from there. Don't look at it like I see so many people and they're like, oh, I've snatched 120 like 12 times in the last like 2 months. And I'm like, well, that's cool. You're like, yeah, I'm going to open at 120. I'm like, you've missed 125 like 5 times in the last week. I was like, why don't we open at 15? Then you hit that 20 and then you go for the 25. So
that's funny. You know, I have a kind of a funny story, and I don't mind calling myself out on this one, but it was pretty early on in my lifting career I just said that. In my lifting time, the journey. And I had just hit, I think, 95 kilos for the very first time. And I go to train with Joe Beck. And he's like, what's your best? And I was like, right now it's 95, but I got like 115 coming right around the corner. And he just looked at me and he goes, you're stupid. And it was just such a moment where I was like, God damn it, I think he's right.
I'm picturing him like just hitting a big blunt.
Yeah.
And then the smoke's coming out of his mouth, and he's like, you are so dumb right now. And then he's blowing smoke in your face and walking away.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, it was a moment that I'll never forget. And mind you, listen, I love Joe Beck, and we're friends, and I didn't take it harshly at all. But at the same point, I was like, fuck, he's right. That pisses me off. Anyways, so 42 minutes. I got some things to kind of announce, not really kind of, but like on the 29th, I believe that's a Sunday. We're going to have a special guest on. Mr. Matthew Konar is going to be staying with me. And so I figured we'd do a 3-way podcast, and it'll be fun. Yeah. So that'll be cool. Plan on 2 hours. I know if anybody has not noticed, I don't know if anybody even pays attention to it. I have not been posting on Instagram, so I'm trying to kind of reset my algorithm a little bit. But I've also been posting a lot on the YouTube. So if you want to listen to this, go to YouTube, because that's really, for me, I've been kind of feeling that like it's the best way to listen, and you can watch and you can see our faces if you want, or you could not see our faces and put your phone down, or however you watch or listen. So those are kind of things I just want to talk about. I will get back on the Instagrams here shortly. And I think I posted something today. Was the first time in like 2.5 weeks. So
You're looking super jacked.
It's funny because Jackson and I were like, okay, let's look like we're like muscle men because we were on the top of a mountain, and he was like posing, and it was fun. Yeah, no, it was fun. I used to wear my hat flipped up like this a lot when I was younger, and so I was like, I rocked the flipped up hat, and yeah. It's cool. Anyways, Cornell, great conversation. I think I hope some people maybe took some stuff from that and understand how to adjust on a plateau, or just talk to your coach and see if your coach responds to it. But good show, man, and I guess we're coming back next week, right?
Yeah.
You got any plans coming up?
Not for about a month.
Okay, cool.
So, competing on the 5th, and then I leave for Tennessee on the 8th, and then I get my balls snipped on the 9th. No,
whoa,
10th, 11th. Yeah.
You're making the jump?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Congratulations, dude. Congratulations. That's exciting.
The bummer is they only have Friday appointments.
Okay.
be the smartest thing to get snipped on a Monday and then jump on an airplane the next day. But I was trying to time it with the competition, but it's not going to work. So I'll be fine.
Yeah, I think you'll be good. I don't know why I'm so excited for you, but I always get excited when people tell me they're getting snipped. I'm like, yes, good job. Cool. Well, I guess we'll see you next week. Thanks for being on. Thanks for listening, everybody. And hope everybody has a good night. Adios.
Bye.